digital library card. So Jason was able to get the card and download some ebooks to his phone. Wow. So he's got something to read while being stuck in lockdown in Peru right now.
That's awesome. Yeah, when I needed book recommendations, you were the first person I went to because I know you were always at the library.
Yep.
Right,
That's
everyone.
why it's so exciting. This is like my home library that is, you know, giving this talk.
So let's get started. We have, we're 6:03. We have 15 people, and we got one more joining right now. Yeah, so let's get started. I appreciate that plug, and yeah, that's, I think how I met you, Kayla, is that you are a library patron and a neighbor here in Incline Village, and also a freelance writer and author based in North Lake Tahoe. So just once more reminder for everybody, please mute yourself. If you have a question, please use the raise your hand feature or wave at me, and we are recording this, so it will be available afterwards. And we do hope to do more of these programs in the future. And if you would like to get Northern California road trips by ebook, please use the library's request an item feature. If we get a couple recommendations, we will add this to our ebook collection. We do have the print version available for checkout, but that might be a couple weeks away, so we can get the ebook to you if we get a couple of recommendations. So please do that. And without further ado, thank you so much, Kayla, for being willing to do our Tahoe Treks program virtually. We had you originally scheduled in March, had to reschedule, and thankfully you were willing to do this online. So thank you, everyone, for registering and joining in. And if you'd like to see more, use that request an item feature, and also follow our website at washoecountylibrary.us. So I'll turn it over to you. Thank you, Kayla. Take it away.
Well, thank you all so much for coming and taking some time out of your evening to see this presentation. And I am going to go ahead and share my presentation now. Hopefully this works. But yeah, and I actually think, I mean, it's kind of a bummer to not be able to do this in person when it was originally scheduled in March 17th, but I'm also thrilled that it allows other people that maybe not be, who couldn't attend in person, to be able to do it through Zoom. So yeah, I know that right now these are crazy times, but I highly encourage everybody to stay home and stay safe, and I'm sure that some of these Tahoe trails will be even more beautiful when you come visit or try them out once we can all start traveling again, because they'll have had that time to restore and regenerate. So yeah, please keep in mind that I am more of a writer than a presenter. So I'll start out with a little bit about me. I was born and raised in Redding, California, right along the banks of the Sacramento River. This is a picture taken off my parents' backyard. And so I was so lucky to have parents who were who were really into camping and boating and snow skiing. They took us all over the North State. We went to Yosemite and Patrick's Point on the coast, up to the sand dunes in Oregon. And I have a ton of fond memories, wakeboarding and even houseboating on Shasta Lake and Whiskey Town up in Northern California, and snowboarding at Mount Shasta. I actually learned to ski at Mount Lassen when I was 2 years old. And now that I'm really into paddleboarding, I love paddling on Lake Tahoe. And also on the Sacramento River when I can. And if you do have a copy of Northern California Road Trips, you'll see on page, I think it's 409, my cousin Summer is in this Zoom talk right now, and she is featured in a photo paddleboarding on Lake Tahoe on that page. But yeah, then I studied journalism, and yeah, there she is right in the crack. Thanks for sharing, John. And so then I studied journalism and creative writing at Chico State University. And then when I graduated, I moved to Florida and got into the wakeboarding industry for a little while. And I was there for 2 years before I realized just how much I missed the snow and the 4 distinct seasons that we have here in Northern California and Lake Tahoe. So I moved back to Lake Tahoe to Incline Village, December of 2006, been here full time. And then I worked for Diamond Peak and the Incline Village General Improvement District, and then also spent a few years at Mount Rose. And then in 2015, I became a freelance writer. And a couple of years ago, I got this job with Moon Guidebooks to co-author a book that's in one of their newer series called the Road Trips series. And so I co-authored the Northern California Road Trips Guidebook with Stuart Thornton, who is based out of Monterey, and he did the whole coastal region. And then I wrote 5 chapters of the inland Northern California region. So part of that was Lake Tahoe. And so I shared a bunch of listings and things to do and see and camp and stay and eat, all in the Lake Tahoe region as part of the Northern California road trip route. And just wanted to share a few of my favorite treks. And so these are kind of my top 5. And you'll see that, I mean, they're kind of on the northeastern corner of the lake and the southwestern corner of the lake. Since I lived in Incline Village for so long, I have a lot of favorite hikes there. But then when I go on a staycation, I tend to end up on the southwestern shore of the lake. So most of these are kind of short hikes, except for this first one that I'm going to talk about, Aloha Lake. And so, or Lake Aloha, I've heard it both ways. I think the proper name is Lake Aloha. Now, Lake Aloha, I was introduced to this hike. I had heard of other locals who have gone up there, and they just talked about how amazing it was with the blue water against these granite gray rocks. It just looks like, I always say the surface of the moon, but it's like this extraterrestrial, just great balance of something that I've never really even seen anywhere else. So this is a day trip down in South Tahoe. It takes 5 to 12 miles round trip, takes about 8 hours. And it starts at Lower Echo Lake on Johnson Pass Road. And you hug the water, you hug Echo Lake for about 2.4 miles. And you kind of climb up in elevation, going on this granite rock and passing through the forest for another few miles, passing by Tamarack, Lucille, and Marjorie lakes. There's meadows, there's beautiful trees, forest. And I know that you can cut off a little bit of that beginning part by a boat ride. I'm not sure if they're going to do it or if they're still going to do it this summer, but they do have boat rides that are like $6, I think, one way, that go from Lower Echo Lake to the Upper Echo Lake. So if you want to shorten your mileage to Lake Aloha, you can look into that. But yeah, then after passing by some of those other lakes in the Desolation Wilderness, then the trail splits. And if you go left, you end up at the lake in the woods, or if you stay right, you end up at Lake Aloha. What I love about this hike is that it's right on the Pacific Crest Trail. So you'll often see some through hikers that are spending the night there, and it's set, like, the water is so beautiful. There's tons of rocks that you can jump off of. There's a lot of places to explore, and it does take a good portion of the day to get there. So I always suggest bringing a bathing suit and sunscreen, plenty of water. And then on the way back, when we actually did this hike on the way back, around dusk, some mosquitoes came out. And so we didn't really expect that, because living in Tahoe, I don't really see that many mosquitoes around, but maybe because there's so many little lakes around there, I just suggest bringing some bug spray as well. So that's kind of the longest trek that you would do if you had a few days to spend in Lake Tahoe, and you could take a day to check out Lake Aloha, or have it on your Pacific Crest Trail map.
Is there a big elevation gain with going out to Lake Aloha?
Yeah, there is. And let me see, I can, because I have mentioned the elevation gain in the book. So Desolation Wilderness is at 8,116 feet. And I think it does. I think it does go up like 1,000 feet from there. Yeah, I mean, it's not
bad,
as intense as like Mount Talac,
yeah,
but it's labeled a moderate to strenuous hike. You definitely do feel an elevation gain when you go up there, or I have when I've done it.
Sounds like that the boat would be helpful.
Yeah, but you know what? I would want to take the boat back rather than having to hike back, because when we hiked back, I mean, that was kind of when we were the most tired. But then, like, the boat wasn't running then. But I know that there's some cool cabins that are on Echo Lake, and I mean, it is quiet out there because there's not a whole lot of activity. So I have been wanting to take that boat ride. And so this next hike that's kind of in that same southwestern vicinity is the hike down to Viking's Home. This is a historic cabin mansion that was built by a woman named Laura Knight, and she was a huge environmentalist and conservationalist, and loved Lake Tahoe. And so if you go around Emerald Bay and you stop at the Emerald Bay overlook, there's a parking lot there, and you can there's like a little hut, and you can buy your parking pass there, and I believe you can even buy tour tickets to Viking's Home. And then how you get down there is you take a 1 mile hard packed trail. It's wide and very well marked down to the shoreline. And it along the way, I love this hike because again, like, there's a kind of a big elevation drop, but you don't even really realize it because the views are so beautiful. I mean, you see Emerald Bay, you see waterfalls, and it's just a really nice path. And then once you're down there, you can see in this left left-hand side picture of, there's these old growth cedar trees all around. There's a kayak company that rents kayaks and paddle boards on the shore that you can take to Fanet Island, where there's a little stone tea house up there. So I mentioned this hike because I love Tahoe's historic mansions like Thunderbird Lodge and Vikings Home and Sugar Pine State Park. I wrote an article for Tahoe Magazine a couple years ago about famous ghosts and ghost stories of these places. And there is rumor that Laura Knight's presence is still there in from park rangers who have said that they've smelled fresh cinnamon rolls in the kitchen. That was like her favorite. So anyways, I'm getting off track here, which is what I did a lot in the book too.
Kayla, that trail to Vikings Home, is that ADA accessible with that packed trail?
Yeah, I believe that it is. I mean, it is dirt and gravel. So, and it is wide, but I feel like I do remember when I went down there seeing people that took strollers and things down there. The only thing is that it's pretty steep on the way up. I mean, it's a good drop. And I think there are some gravel parts of the trail too. So yeah, if you go to the Vikings Home website, I think they explain that trail farther, because I do know that when they sell the tours, they just try to make sure that people are capable of getting down there. And so, yeah, so this next trail that that is one of my new favorite trails is the new East Shore Trail that was built and completed, and I think it was October 2018. And so it's right around the time when I was writing the book. And so in the book, it's called the Sand Harbor Trail, but I think the proper name of it is the East Shore Tahoe Trail. And so it starts on the very eastern side of Incline Village on Highway 28. In front of the Tunnel Creek Cafe, there is a big parking lot there. And it's a 4-mile paved path that goes along Lake Tahoe's east shore over to Sand Harbor State Park. And so, yeah, these are some pictures of the opening day. This was built by the Tahoe Fund. And what I really love about the Tahoe Fund, or not built by the Tahoe Fund, but they coordinated the building of this trail. And what I really love about them is they look at projects like this to help improve connectivity of people viewing the lake. And so they looked at this one to help alleviate kind of the congestion and the people that park along the highway, trying to kind of gear them towards a safer place to park and use this trail and use this path to get to Sand Harbor. So you'll see like this is the Tahoe Fund. I don't know if she's the executive director, but she's definitely the head honcho over there. Amy Berry and Nevada Governor Steve Sisolak. And you'll see like it's great to bike ride, to run. You get beautiful views of the lake. There's like a little underground tunnel that you can take along it. It's a pretty moderate, nice path. I like to go skateboarding on this trail. So yeah, this is kind of one of my favorites. It's new, it's well utilized, and I think it works well for getting people out to see the East Shore. And then which kind of leads to the other side of Tunnel Creek Cafe is the Tunnel Creek Cafe. In front of it is the parking lot that leads to the East Shore Trail, and then behind it, up on the mountainside, is the Tunnel Creek Trail. And so this kind of gives you more of the overlooks of Lake Tahoe. And you can kind of see it's like a dirt path that, it's a 7-mile out and back trail that you can access from the cafe. And it kind of goes up into the mountainside, intersecting with the Flume Trail. So I think this offers spectacular views of the lake, and it shows kind of the infamous Monkey Rock. And I think that one of the best ways to explore this trail is actually by mountain bike. And what's nice is that mountain bike rentals are available at the Flume Trail mountain bikes, right there at the Tunnel Creek Cafe, and they can shuttle you from kind of all these different places from the East Shore. And so that's kind of a great service if you're low on time but really want to check out the rest of this whole trail. And then kind of the last one on my list is Spooner Lake. I love to run around this lake, and kind of love to go here midweek. It's so peaceful and nice. You can get there from either Highway 28 before it intersects with Highway 50. There's a parking lot in there, or there's also a parking lot right on Highway 50, and it also leads to the Tahoe Rim Trail. But yeah, the path around the lake is it's about 2 miles, and it's just really peaceful out there. The only things I've ever really seen on the lake are like ducks and birds and stuff. And yeah, I was just out there the other day, and chickadees or what's known here as the cheeseburger birds, were just coming right up to me, and I just love the aspens out there, and I think this is actually a fun trail to check out year round. So yeah, and so a fun fact about Spooner Lake is that it's part of the Spooner backcountry that is ran by the Nevada State Park System, which includes over 12,000 miles, including 50 miles of hiking and biking trails. So yeah, I really love this one.
So that's 50 miles of biking and hiking trails.
Yep, 50
Wow.
miles as part of the 12,000 acres of Spooner backcountry ran by the Nevada State Park System. And so that's just kind of a brief overview of some of my favorite Tahoe trails. They're all mentioned in my book, The Moon Northern California Road Trips Guide, written by myself and Stuart Thornton. It's for sale at Barnes & Noble, IndieBound, or directly through the Moon website, or you can get it through the library. And for anybody that's in the Tahoe Reno area, it's right there on the third shelf next to the bathroom in the Reno Barnes & Noble. And then just some additional resources is this is my website. So if anybody is interested in seeing what else I'm up to, I do a lot of writing in the area and for other magazines as well. And then there's Stuart's website. He's my co-author on the book, and he's written several other moon guides, and then the Moon website. And so yeah, now I'd like to open it up to any questions. But before I do that, I'll just cover so since writing this book, when I tell people about the Moon book, the questions that they ask me the most are, number one, did I go to all these places? And yes, the chapters that I wrote, I have been to all those places at one time or another. The timing of writing this book was a little tricky. I had 5 months to do it in the winter of 2018-19. And so I was taking a lot of hot trips to some of these places, like driving Tioga Pass in Yosemite and going up to Crater Lake and driving around the rim drive around Crater Lake before it started to snow. So on this right-hand side, this is me hiking in the Hoover Wilderness in the Lundy Canyon, and that was like early October, which was actually one of the better times to go hiking and to go camping there, because the aspen trees are just popping, and the Mammoth June Lake area is just so beautiful. So yeah, so I haven't been to all of Stewart's places on the coast, but I do love that region as well. And the next, like, everybody asked me if Moon just paid me to travel around. Well, they did give me an advance, but there were also some costs involved in staying at hotels and eating out and the travel was just one part of the book. I would say that some of the other main tasks of writing this book include the research and the actual physical writing part of it. I spent way more time on the research and the writing than I actually did on the travel. And then people ask me, like, well, whatever I got paid from Moon, was it worth it? Would I ever do it again? And I remember seeing on the Moon website before taking this job that that people who have written a Moon book really want to keep writing more. And that's definitely how I felt in this process. It was one of the biggest challenges I've ever done. And while, you know, the stipend I got paid from them to do this is nowhere close to paying the bills. Luckily, like, I have enough flexibility in my life to have been able to take this on, and I would definitely do it again.
Awesome.
All right.
Thank you, Kayla. I do have one question to start off. So you're a native of Redding, California, and you covered some of the, you know, interior Northern California, and that's a place I'm kind of unfamiliar with, and I've heard lots of amazing things about camping in Oregon. So anything up in that area that you would recommend?
Yeah, there are some amazing hikes and even some lookout areas up by Mount Shasta. Um, and that whole area, like, it is really beautiful. Like, there's Castle Craig's, which you see right off of I-5 and off of Dunsmuir, which are just huge, you know, rocks that stick up, and you can hike up there, you can camp there, and you can go even to some of the other little lakes like Heart Lake, and there's a bunch of there's a few of them out there. And what's great about that area is practically from any angle you get incredible views of Mount Shasta. And I haven't hiked to the top of Mount Shasta. It's a pretty gnarly hike. And it's usually covered with snow most of the time. But there's a few rock climbing and snow trekking outfitters that go from that area. And Mount Shasta City is a really cool little town with hotels and coffee shops and just a ton of trails around there. And so, yeah, if you can go off of Highway 89 into McLeod in that area, it's great. And then another thing too that I really love is that there's all these caves. There's like the lava beds up on kind of the Oregon border and the California border, with just tons of caves and lava beds up there. And then over by Burney Falls, there's there's like a cool little, like, it's like 0.3 mile long subway cave off of 89. It's free, takes like an hour to just go stretch your legs. And but when I did that kind of doing my road trips, one lady was really surprised to hear that I went in there by myself, because it is kind of creepy, like when you get in like pitch black darkness by yourself, and you just have to kind of keep walking and hope that there's an exit somewhere. And so, yeah, and the Oregon caves are great too. So yeah, I mean, there's a ton of camping spots all up in that area. And I mean, I've been to waterfalls off of Highway 299, kind of between Alturas and Redding, where I mean, I've traveled a lot of places around the world, and the waterfalls in Northern California definitely rival anything anywhere else. And especially since it gets so hot in the valley. I mean, growing up, I was lucky to live on the river and to kind of get that river breeze. But I mean, it would be like 113 degrees Fahrenheit down there. So going to those waterfalls, going to those lakes, if you camp in the summer, then I definitely suggest camping near a lake. Should we do the bonus question? Or
Go for it.
All right. Well, I did really want to thank you all for joining me on this Tahoe Treks talk. And so I wanted to throw a bonus question out there, and John will help me moderate it. And the first person to answer this correctly by responding in the chat box will receive a personally signed copy of my new book for me. So the question is, and I mentioned this about 15 minutes ago, is how many miles of trails does the Spooner Backcountry have?
All right, watching the chat, we'll see who answers that first.
Oh man.
15?
Oh man, I haven't seen the messages, but I saw that 6 people responded, which tells me that people have been actually listening. Right?
What is the correct answer?
50 miles.
50. So I believe Lisa was the first to respond on that. So yeah, Lisa, you'll be receiving a
Okay, well,
signed
yeah,
copy.
Lisa, if you can share I don't know how the whole chat feature works, but if you can share your address, then I'll make sure to get a copy out to the mail for you.
Yeah, and, Lisa, are you with the library system? Yes. Okay. Yes.
Yeah. I'm sharing my screen. I might be sharing everybody's, so maybe I won't do that right now. But yeah, is there? I think that's the last slide.
Yeah.
Yep.
And would really like to ask if there's any more questions, either in chat or and I apologize, I'm getting into an unstable internet connection message, so I hope this is coming through. But does anybody have any more questions? And
oh yeah, so now I'm looking and I can see that Becca said about how you can hike up to the tea house in a Viking's home, and yeah, that is such a cool hike. I've taken a boat out there, and I love like when people come into town to try to get them out in Emerald Bay. And one day, like we dropped an anchor on the boat and swam in and hiked up to the top of the tea house, and my friend from Costa Rica was just blown away. So it's definitely one of the highlights. If you do take that hike down to Viking's home, rent a kayak and go up to that tea house.
we do have another question. What is your favorite trail to get away from people?
Oh man, see, I was almost afraid that somebody would ask me that question. You know, a new trail that I've known about it for a while, but I just went on it for my first time, is over in Blackwood Canyon, over on the West Shore. And what's nice about that trail is that, and I'm not quite sure how far I think it goes pretty far up in there. But what's great about it is that the California State Parks has this system where they manage these snow parks, which are basically recreational areas that you can access in the winter. And it's like a really cheap permit. You can buy it at a gas station in South Lake Tahoe, and you get this parking permit where I think it's like $10 or $15 to get access to these snow parks around Tahoe all winter long. And so, yeah, Blackwood Canyon, there's still quite a bit of snow up there, but the gate is closed. But I noticed that there's like a little campground there. There's a decent sized parking lot, and there were some people on that trail when I was there, but you have a lot of space to roam. And so, yeah, that's kind of one of my new secret spots. And then I really love some trails on the East Shore that go down to the lake that are kind of past Sand Harbor. But the problem is that they're not clearly marked, and there's not very good parking. So again, that's why I love the Tahoe Fund, because they're helping improve the connectivity of bike paths around the lake. And then also for the last 13, 14 years, I have been involved in this, or I've participated in this Boarding for Breast Cancer event called Skate the Lake. And that's a 22-mile skateboard ride that starts at Sugar Pine State Park on the west side, all the way up to Squaw Valley. And then sometimes they go up to they come back down into Tahoe City and go up to Dollar Hill and back. And that is a total paved bike path. And I just love skateboarding, especially that portion outside of Tahoe City that's like over by Homewood, because you are just right on the lake. So again, like my favorite trails where no people are at are the ones that are usually on a spring or fall day, that midweek day at at 11 a.m. to 2 o'clock or something. So that seems to be the only time that I found where nobody else is on the trail. But when I did go to Spooner, and if you go in the winter too, like when I went to Spooner midweek, just recently, there was absolutely nobody there. I actually forged a path in the snow around that lake, and that was a nice feeling for sure.
Awesome. We have another question from Lisa. Are there what's the status of trails in Tahoe now? Are they open? Can you access them?
Yeah, I mean, they are open. Usually there are a few, like Blackwood Canyon, for instance. They put up the gates, or they close the gates on any Tahoe U.S. Forest Service road for in the winter after it starts snowing, and you can't access those through a vehicle. I did hear, because of COVID, that there's been a large area in South Lake Tahoe that's completely closed down. And so I don't know how the pandemic will affect open trails in the future. But there are a lot of people going on the Sand Harbor Trail. I saw people on the new Dollar Hill Trail that the Tahoe Fund just built. So the bike paths, they're still out there and accessible. But also, with that being said, I mean, I would suggest just trying through the pandemic, like trying to stick. I think it's important to get outdoors, but stick close to home. There's a lot of people going to these trails that I just mentioned right now. And so parking has been kind of hard. So I'd say if you don't have to drive anywhere, you don't. But if you need to get outdoors and try one of these trails because you're in the area now, then I guess good luck.
Yeah, I think it sounds like going to the supermarket. You probably don't want to go prime time, but there are good times to go, and everybody needs to get out there. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's just figuring out how that fits into your schedule.
yeah, and I agree with you. I saw some places closed in South Lake, like Pope Beach and Baldwin Beach, closed to the public. But as you
Yeah.
said, the parking for the East Shore path is open, and I think just
Mhm.
use some common sense and distancing, and yeah, try to find that sweet spot of day and time, right?
Yeah, I mean, I know that a lot of the beaches in the North Shore are closed right now, and the big reason for that is because people aren't following social distancing. So then it puts government entities in the tough spot of trying to regulate that, and that's what causes them to shut down. So I think just being mindful of that during this time, and I mean, who knows how much will change. Um, because of this pandemic. I mean, I was just telling somebody this morning that the tough part about writing a guidebook is that there's such a long lead time on when it's published. And so things change. And there is a disclaimer at the back of the book that says, hey, when you're planning your trip to a specific area, double check some of these facts. Make sure that some of these places are still around because but because that's just kind of how it is with the lead time, the long time span it takes to publish a book. Like, for instance, I mean, last December, the day that the book came out, I one of my favorite coffee shops, Ivy Coffee Lab, changed ownerships. So I put like in my highlights of your Lake Tahoe trip, stop by the Ivy Coffee Lab. And then the book comes out and the Ivy Coffee Lab's not there anymore. So luckily it is still a coffee shop and the new owners are great. And then I also mentioned too, around that same time, the Bank of America in Incline Village closed down. So when I mentioned like, oh, if you need to go to the bank, go to the Bank of America in the book, these are one of the services, and they shut down. But luckily, they still have their ATMs there. So there are things like that that I believe would happen whether or not there is a pandemic. I'm just hoping too that a lot of the small businesses, a lot of the restaurants, and places that I mentioned, the hotels, will be able to pull through and still stay alive for when tourism here picks back up.
Neat. I think we're very much looking forward to that and
Yeah.
supporting all of these small towns and campgrounds, restaurants, all the things you mentioned in the book. So would like to thank you, Kayla, for presenting, and hope everyone will check out Northern California Road Trips, a Moon Guide, and tell us again where the best place to pick this up is.
Um, the Barnes and Noble, IndieBound, Moon.com. You can go to my website, you can go to Amazon or the library.
Absolutely. And please recommend so we could possibly get this ebook in our collection. And you can also reserve the physical book at washingtoncountylibrary.us for when we reopen, hopefully soon.
Well, again, it really means the world to me that everybody showed up too. I mean, I just can't believe the support that this has, and I hope that it's been worth it, taking some time out of people's nights to join us here.
Neat. Well, thank you once again, Kayla, and keep an eye out for her writing in the Tahoe Daily Tribune and also freelancing with the Tahoe Truckee Weekly, Sparks Tribune. Anything else?
Um, I don't think so. I I also write for a magazine called Enjoy, Northern California Living Magazine. They've been kind of put on hold. They cover from Chico to the Oregon border, that whole region, and so I love supporting them. It's a free magazine, and they also have stores in Red Bluff and in Redding with lots of goodies. And so yeah, they writing for them and writing for the Tahoe Weekly and the Sparks Tribune, it really helped me get a good sense of what the area was like and to be able to revisit some of these places to write about them for the book. And then the book has given me a ton more story ideas that that I'll continue writing about.
Awesome. We look forward to that. And thank you so much, Kayla, for sharing your insight. And yeah, I can't wait to get traveling.
Yeah, thank you all. Have a good night.
Good night, everyone. Check out the library website for more virtual events and access to so many digital resources. You can get an instant library card, and have a great night.
Thanks, Kayla. Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was wonderful.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks, Kayla. I hope to see you this summer.
Oh, Ken, I like that water bottle. Kayla, yes, I do.
Okay, good.
Nice job, Kayla.
Thanks, Brett. Thank you for coming.
Sure.
Do you guys eat all your tacos?
Yeah.
I'm not going to say how many.
Well, I'm glad you guys are back in town. We should go paddleboarding soon.
Yes, I'm dying to paddleboard. That would be awesome.
Well, come up.
I'm
Well,
afraid to. Am I allowed?
What?
I've got two now, so she can strap me on one and tow me around.
And you know, Summer, so John, we were talking about doing that paddle around the lake, and John did it.
Oh, really? Oh, cool.
Yeah.
In a
few months
kayak,
ago.
though.
Okay.
Kayaked it, yeah.
How long did
But-
it take you?
I did it in 3 days. I didn't make it all the way. I got weathered out at the very end. But 4 days would be ideal.
Wow.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's
Kayla and I were trying to
insane.
plan that out. It would be cool.
I can't wait to do it. I that's all I think about. I can't wait to do it again.
Yeah. Speaking of paddling, Kayla, are you still planning on doing the 100-mile on the Sacramento in September?
Yeah, I want to.
Yeah, me too. I had them just switch over my registration.
Yeah. Well, that's good. And I